I never thought I'd be writing this post, but here we are. This happened about 6 months ago, and I'm still processing it. I need to get this off my chest because it's been eating me alive, and maybe some of you have been through something similar. I don't even know where to start, but I guess I'll begin with how I found out. I'm a junior at State University, majoring in computer science. Pretty standard college experience, dorm life, parties, stress about grades, the usual. My roommate Jake has been my random assignment since freshman year, and honestly, we clicked from day one. He's this laid-back guy from Oregon, plays guitar, always has good weed, and somehow manages to pull decent grades despite spending most of his time skateboarding around campus. We've become genuine friends, the kind where you can sit in comfortable silence or stay up all night talking about conspiracy theories and the meaning of life. My mom, Sarah, is 43 and has been single since my dad left when I was 12. She's what you'd call a cool mom. Works as a marketing director for a local brewery, rides a motorcycle, has a few tasteful tattoos, and genuinely tries to relate to my generation. She's always been supportive of my college choices, and even helped me move into the dorms each year. Jake met her during freshman orientation, and always made comments about how awesome and young-looking my mom was. I thought it was just being polite. The discovery happened on a Thursday evening in March. I was supposed to be at my evening programming class, but the professor had to cancel last minute due to a family emergency. I decided to surprise Jake by bringing back some of those loaded nachos from the campus food truck he's always craving. I used my key to get into our room, expecting to find him either gaming or passed out with textbooks scattered around. Instead, I walked in to find him on a video call, and I could hear a familiar laugh coming through his laptop speakers. Not just any laugh, my mother's laugh. That specific, melodic giggle she does when she's flirting. I froze in the doorway, nachos in hand, trying to process what I was seeing. Jake was sitting on his bed, laptop positioned, so I could see the screen from my angle. There was my mom, clearly in her bedroom, wearing what looked like a nice blouse. Her hair done up in that way she only does when she's trying to look good for someone. They were talking in these soft, intimate tones that made my stomach drop. "I miss you too," I heard her say, and Jake responded with, "2 more weeks until spring break, babe. I can't wait to see you again." Babe. He called my mother babe. I must have made some noise because Jake suddenly turned around, saw me standing there, and his face went white. He quickly closed the laptop and just stared at me. We probably stood there in silence for 30 seconds, which felt like 30 years. "Dude," was all I managed to say. "Listen, man, I can explain." Jake started, but I cut him off by raising my hand. I couldn't hear explanations right then. I dropped the nachos on my desk and walked out. I spent the next 3 hours walking around campus, trying to wrap my head around what I just witnessed. My roommate, my friend, was apparently dating my mother. How long had this been going on? How did it even start? When did they have time to develop whatever this relationship was? And why did neither of them tell me? The more I thought about it, the more pieces started falling into place. Over winter break, Jake had mentioned visiting some friends on the West Coast, but we lived on the East Coast. He'd been unusually cagey about details. My mom had seemed particularly happy lately, mentioning she was seeing someone, but being vague when I asked for details. She'd said he was a really sweet guy, very mature for his age, and that she'd tell me more when she was ready. Sweet Jesus. When I finally returned to the room around 11 p.m., Jake was sitting at his desk, clearly having been waiting for me. He looked miserable. "We need to talk," I said, sitting on my bed across from him. "Yeah, we do." He took a deep breath. "Look, I know how this looks, and I know it's weird, but it's not what you think. What I think is that you're dating my mother. Am I wrong?" He was quiet for a moment. "No, you're not wrong." The confirmation hit me like a truck, even though I already knew it was true. Hearing him say it out loud made it real in a way that watching it hadn't. "How long?" I asked. "Since January. About 3 months." "How did this even happen, Jake? Like, what's the timeline here?" He ran his hands through his hair, a nervous habit I'd become familiar with over the years. "Remember when I came to your house over winter break? When my flight got delayed and I couldn't make it home?" I did remember. Jake was supposed to fly back to Oregon, but some weather issue grounded flights for 2 days. My mom had insisted he come stay with us, rather than remain stuck at the airport or pay for an expensive hotel. She'd always liked Jake, and said it would be good company, since I was planning to spend most of break playing video games anyway. "Yeah, I remember. Well, we just talked a lot. Like, really talked. Your mom made dinner that first night, and you went to bed early because you had that early morning shift at Best Buy. We stayed up talking until like 3 a.m. She's incredibly easy to talk to, man. She listened to me talk about my parents' divorce, my anxiety about picking a major. All this stuff I don't usually share with people. I felt a weird mix of emotions hearing this. On one hand, it was nice to know my mom had been there for Jake when he needed someone. On the other hand, the direction this was clearly heading made me uncomfortable. "The next day," Jake continued, You had to work again, and she offered to show me around town, since I'd never really explored beyond the campus area. We went to that record store downtown, grabbed coffee, walked around the park. It felt, I don't know how to explain it. It didn't feel like she was my friend's mom. It felt like she was just Sarah, this amazing woman I was getting to know. Jesus Christ, Jake. I know. That night, after you went to sleep, we were watching a movie on the couch, and we just started talking again. Deep conversation about life, relationships, goals, fears. And then, he trailed off. And then what? We kissed. It just happened. Neither of us planned it. It wasn't some seduction thing. We were sitting close, talking quietly so we wouldn't wake you. And there was this moment where we just looked at each other, and it happened. I put my head in my hands. My best friend and my mother had kissed on my family's couch while I was sleeping upstairs. This was a nightmare. I felt terrible afterward, Jay continued. I mean, she's your mom, and you're my best friend. I was going to leave the next morning and pretend it never happened. But she felt bad too, and we ended up talking about it. She said she hadn't felt a connection like that with anyone in years, and honestly, neither had I. She's literally old enough to be your mother, Jake. She's my mother. I know the age thing is weird, but it doesn't feel weird when we're talking, and I can't help how I feel about her. She's smart, funny, independent, beautiful. She treats me like an adult, not like some college kid. When I talk to her, I feel like the best version of myself. I wanted to be angry, but hearing Jake talk about my mom with such genuine affection was confusing. I'd never heard him speak about any girl this way. He'd had a few casual relationships since I'd known him, but nothing serious. Nothing that made him light up when he talked about it. So what happened after I left for the semester? I asked. We texted a little bit, just checking in, nothing romantic. But then she texted me on my birthday in February, and we ended up talking for hours. That led to phone calls, which led to video calls. It just developed naturally. Neither of us meant for it to happen, but it did. Have you seen each other? Like in person? He nodded. She drove up here twice. Told you she was visiting her sister in Albany, but she came to see me. We'd meet off campus, obviously. And I went to see her one weekend when you were at that hackathon. I remembered that weekend. I'd been gone for 3 days, and Jake said he was going to visit his cousin in Philadelphia. Another lie. Are you guys, like, serious? Or is this just some weird fling? Jake was quiet for a long moment. I love her, man. I know that sounds crazy given the circumstances, but I do. And she loves me too. We've talked about what happens after I graduate, about the future. This isn't just some casual thing for either of us. That hit me like a punch to the gut. It was one thing to think they were having some strange affair, but hearing that they loved each other and were making future plans, that was a whole different level of reality I wasn't prepared for. Does she know that you know? I asked. I texted her after you left earlier. She's freaking out too. She wants to call you, but I told her to give you some space first. I appreciated that at least. I wasn't ready to talk to my mom yet. We sat in silence for a while, both lost in thought. Finally, Jake spoke up again. I want you to know that we both felt terrible about keeping this from you. Your mom especially. She's been losing sleep over it, worried about how you'd react, worried about our friendship, worried about your relationship with her. But we didn't know how to tell you without it being incredibly awkward. Well, it's incredibly awkward now anyway. Yeah, fair point. I looked at Jake, really looked at him. He seemed older somehow, more mature than the goofy skater dude I'd been living with for 3 years. Maybe that's what my mom saw in him. Can I ask you something honestly? I said, of course. Is this about some weird mommy issue thing? Like, are you trying to replace your relationship with your own mom by dating mine? Jake considered this seriously, which I appreciated. I've thought about that too, honestly. My relationship with my mom has been strained since my parents' divorce. But no, I don't think that's what this is. Your mom isn't motherly toward me at all. She's supportive and caring, but in the way a partner is, not in the way a parent is. When we're together, the age difference doesn't feel relevant. I wanted to understand, I really did. But it was my mom. The woman who packed my lunch and drove me to soccer practice and helped me with homework was now someone my peer was in love with. It was such a fundamental shift in how I had to view both of them that my brain was struggling to process it. What do you need from me right now? Jake asked. I mean, I know this is weird and complicated, but you're still my best friend, and she's still your mom. We don't want this to ruin those relationships. I honestly don't know, I said. I need time to think, and I need to talk to her. That's fair. Do you want me to stay somewhere else tonight? Give you some space? I thought about it. No, this is your room too. But maybe, no video calls with my mom while I'm here? At least for now. Absolutely. I'll keep all communication with her away from the room until you're more comfortable. We managed to coexist for the rest of the evening, though it was awkward. Jake gave me space, and I tried to focus on homework, but my mind kept wandering. I kept glancing at him and trying to see what my mom saw. Jake was objectively a good-looking guy, tall, lean, with dark hair and green eyes. He had this easy confidence that people gravitated toward. He was funny, intelligent when he applied himself, and had this laid-back charm that I'd seen work on plenty of girls. But he was 21. My mom was 43. The math was just weird no matter how I looked at it. I called my mom the next evening. I needed to hear her side of this. "Honey, I am so sorry you found out this way," were her first words when she answered the phone. "Mom, what the hell?" I know. It's complicated and strange, and I should have told you sooner." "You're dating my roommate, Mom. My friend. How is that not the first thing you tell me?" I could hear her sigh. "Because I knew you'd react exactly like this, and I wasn't ready to deal with it. I was being selfish." At least she was honest about that. "How did this happen? And don't give me some romanticized version. I want the truth." She told me essentially the same story Jake had, though from her perspective. She emphasized how lonely she'd been, how long it had been since she'd connected with someone who made her feel interesting and attractive. She talked about how Jake listened to her, really listened, in a way she hadn't experienced in years. "But Mom, he's my age. Doesn't that feel weird to you?" "At first, yes. But when we're talking, when we're together, the age difference doesn't feel relevant. He's more mature than a lot of men my own age I've dated. He's thoughtful, responsible, emotionally available. Age is just a number when you connect with someone on a deeper level." I'd heard this argument before, usually in contexts that made me uncomfortable. "Mom, people are going to judge you for this. They're going to judge both of you." "I know, and we've talked about that. But I can't live my life based on what other people think. I'm not hurting anyone. Jake is a legal adult. We're both single. We care about each other. Why should I give up something that makes me happy just because it's unconventional?" I didn't have a good answer for that. Logically, she was right. But emotionally, it still felt wrong to me. "What about me, Mom? How is this going to affect our relationship? How am I supposed to go home for visits now? How am I supposed to hang out with Jake knowing he's sleeping with my mother?" "I don't know, honey. I really don't. I was hoping we could figure it out together." We talked for over an hour, going in circles. She reassured me that her relationship with Jake wouldn't change her relationship with me, that I would always be her priority. But she also made it clear that she wasn't going to end things with Jake just because I was uncomfortable. The next few weeks were incredibly awkward. Jake and I maintained our friendship, but there was this underlying tension that hadn't existed before. He was careful not to mention my mom around me, and I tried not to think about what they were doing when they talked on the phone or video chatted, but it was impossible to completely ignore. Things came to a head during spring break. I'd originally planned to go home, but the thought of potentially running into Jake there, or worse, seeing him and my mom together, made me anxious. Instead, I decided to stay on campus and catch up on coursework. Jake, of course, went home with my mother. He was gone for 10 days, and during that time, I did a lot of thinking. I talked to a few other friends about the situation, without giving too many details, and I even went to a couple of sessions at the campus counseling center to help process my feelings. What I realized was that my discomfort wasn't really about the age difference or the unconventional nature of their relationship. It was about feeling like I was losing control of my family dynamics. My mom had always been my person, the one constant in my life after my dad left. The idea of sharing that relationship, or having it change in a fundamental way, scared me. I also realized that Jake had become like a brother to me over the past 3 years. The thought of losing that friendship over something that, ultimately, didn't really affect me was stupid. When Jake returned from spring break, he looked happier and more relaxed than I'd seen him in weeks. We were both nervous about our first conversation, but I decided to rip off the Band-Aid. "How was your break?" I asked. He looked surprised that I was asking. "It was really good. Your mom says hi, by the way." "Jake, I've been thinking about this whole situation, and I want to talk to you about it." His face got serious. "Okay, I'm still not thrilled about you dating my mom. It's weird, and it's going to take me some time to get used to it. But I've been thinking about what's actually important here, and what's important is that you're both happy and that we can maintain our friendships." Jake's relief was visible. Really, but I need some boundaries. I don't want to hear details about your relationship with her. I don't want to know about your romantic plans or your physical relationship or any of that. When you're with me, you're Jake, my roommate and friend. When you're with her, you're Sarah's boyfriend. Those need to stay separate in my mind. I can absolutely do that. And if you guys break up, I don't want to be put in the middle. I won't take sides, and I won't be your relationship counselor." "Fair enough. Also, if you hurt her, roommate or not, friend or not, I will make your life very difficult." Jake smiled at that. I would expect nothing less. We shook hands on it, and things started to feel more normal between us. It took a few more weeks for the awkwardness to fully fade, but eventually, we found a rhythm that worked. I went home for a weekend in April, and my mom was clearly nervous about how I'd react to seeing her. But we had a good talk, and I could see how happy she was. There was a lightness about her that I hadn't seen in years. She was humming while making breakfast, smiling more, just generally more upbeat. "You seem really happy, Mom." "I am, honey. I know the situation is weird, but Jake makes me feel like myself again. I forgot what it was like to be excited about someone." I still thought it was strange, but seeing her that happy made it easier to accept. The weirdest part was when Jake graduated in May. My mom came to the ceremony, and it was surreal watching her cheer for him like a proud girlfriend, while I cheered for him like a proud friend. Some of our mutual friends definitely noticed that my mom was there and seemed very invested in Jake's achievement, but no one asked questions directly. After graduation, Jake moved back home to Oregon, but he and my mom maintained their long-distance relationship. She visited him twice over the summer, and he came back east once. They seem to be making it work. I'm a senior now, and Jake and I still keep in touch regularly. He's working for a tech startup in Portland and seems to be doing well. He and my mom are still together, and from what I can tell, they're happy. My mom is actually planning to visit him for Thanksgiving, which feels weird to think about, but I'm glad she has someone to spend the holiday with. Looking back, I think I handled the situation as well as I could have. It was never going to be a normal or comfortable situation, but I'm proud that I didn't let it destroy my relationships with either of them. My mom is an adult who deserves to be happy, and Jake is a good guy who treats her well. The age difference and the unconventional way they met will always be weird to me, but they're not actually hurting anyone. The strangest part is that this experience taught me a lot about my own assumptions and prejudices. I realized I had very fixed ideas about what relationships should look like, what was appropriate, and what was normal. Having those assumptions challenged was uncomfortable, but ultimately good for me. I've also learned to appreciate my mom as a person separate from her role as my mother. She's a complex individual with her own needs, desires, and right to happiness. That was hard to accept at first, but it's actually improved our relationship in some ways. As for Jake, our friendship survived something that could have easily destroyed it. We proved to ourselves and each other that we could navigate a really complicated situation with honesty and respect. That means something. I still think the whole thing is weird, and I probably always will. But weird doesn't necessarily mean wrong, and I've learned that love is messy and complicated and doesn't always fit into the neat little boxes we think it should. So yeah, that's my story. My college roommate is dating my mother, and somehow we all made it work. If you're dealing with something similar, my advice is to focus on what actually matters. The people involved are adults, no one is being hurt, and relationships that make people happy are worth preserving, even when they're unconventional. It's been 6 months now since I found out, and while I still get the occasional weird moment when I think too hard about it, mostly it just feels normal now, which maybe says something about how adaptable humans can be when we really want to maintain our important relationships. Life is weird, relationships are complicated, and sometimes the people we love make choices that challenge our comfort zones. But if we can approach those challenges with openness and empathy instead of judgment and rigidity, we might find that our capacity for understanding and acceptance is bigger than we thought.